Hi, I'm Hannah Williamson, and today we are reading Ecclesiastes 9 through 12. We're going to start with 9. This too I carefully explored, even though the actions of godly and wise people are in God's hands. No one knows whether God will show them favor. The same destiny ultimately awaits everyone, whether righteous or wicked, good or bad, ceremonially clean or unclean, religious or irreligious. Good people receive the same treatment as sinners, and people who make promises to God are treated like people who don't. It seems so wrong that everyone under the sun suffers the same fate, already twisted by evil. People choose their own mad course, for they have no hope. There is nothing ahead but death anyway. There is hope only for the living. As they say, it's better to be a live dog than a dead lion. The living at least know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, nor are they remembered. Whatever they did in their lifetime, loving, hating, envying, is all long gone. They no longer play a part in anything here on earth. So go ahead, eat your food with joy, and drink your wine with a happy heart, for God approves of this. Wear fine clothes with a splash of cologne. Live happily with the woman you love throughout all the meaningless days of life that God has given you under the sun. The wife God gives you is your reward for all your earthly toil. Whatever you do, do well, for when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy. And those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. People can never predict when hard times might come. Like fish in a net or birds in a trap, people are caught by sudden tragedy. Here is another bit of wisdom that has impressed me as I've watched the way our world works. There was a small town with only a few people, and a great king came with his army and besieged it. A poor, wise man knew how to save the town, and so it was rescued. But afterward, no one thought to thank him. So even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they will say will not be appreciated for long. Better to hear the quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. Better to have wisdom than weapons of war, but one sinner can destroy much that is good. We are now in chapter 10. As dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink, so a little foolishness spoils great wisdom and honor. A wise person chooses the right road, a fool takes the wrong one. You can identify fools just by the way they walk down the street. If your boss is angry at you, don't quit. A quiet spirit can overcome even great mistakes. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. I have even seen servants riding horseback like princes, and princes walking like servants. When you dig a well, you might fall in. When you demolish an old wall, you could be bitten by a snake. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. When you chop wood, there is danger with each stroke of your axe. Using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. If a snake bites you before you charm it, what's the use of being a snake charmer? Wise words bring approval, but fools are destroyed by their own words. Fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions, so their conclusions will be wicked madness. They chatter on and on. No one really knows what is going to happen. No one can predict the future. Fools are so exhausted by a little work that they can't even find their way home. What sorrow for the land ruled by a servant, the land whose leaders feast in the morning. Happy is the land whose king is a noble leader, and whose leaders feast at the proper time. to gain strength for their work, not to get drunk. Laziness leads to a sagging roof. Idleness leads to a leaky house. A party gives laughter, wine gives happiness, and money gives everything. Never make light of the king, even in your thoughts, and don't make fun of the powerful, even in your own bedroom, for a little bird might deliver your message and tell them what you said. We are now in chapter 11. Send your grain across the seas, and in time profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rain comes down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God who does all these things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if proof it will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. Light is sweet, how pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life. But let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. Young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. But remember that youth with a whole life before you is meaningless. Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor Him in your youth before you grow old and say life is not pleasant anymore. Remember Him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your eyes, and rain clouds continually darken the sky. Remember Him before your legs, the guard of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember Him before your teeth, your few remaining servants, stop grinding, and before your eyes, the women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember Him before the door of life's opportunity is closed and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then all the sounds will grow faint. Remember Him before you become fearful of falling and worrying about danger in the streets, before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy. Like a dying grasshopper, and the caperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember Him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps, and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring, and the pulley is broken at the well, for then the dust will return to the earth, and the spirit will return to God, who gave it. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. Keep this in mind. The teacher was considered wise, and he taught the people everything he knew. He listened carefully to many proverbs, studying and classifying them. The teacher sought to find just the right words to express truths clearly. The words of the wise are like cattle prods, painful but helpful. Their collected sayings are like a nail-studded stick, which a shepherd drives the sheep. But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless and much study wears you out. That's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey His commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. Thank you. I hope this blessed you, and I'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome to Fear into Faith Global Bible Revival, where we are on a passionate mission to get 1 million people to read the Bible cover to cover. My name is Summer Day, and I am in the studio with my friend, Hannah Williamson.
Hello, hello.
I am so glad that you're here.
I am too. I really am.
I'm glad that you're here because you're my friend. I've been having a lot of people in studio, interviewing a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most of whom I've just met in the last couple of weeks. So
Okay.
it's neat to have a familiar face
Yes.
across the way.
Yes.
I'm really glad you're here.
I am too.
You drove far to get here? How far did you have to drive?
About 3 hours.
3 hours
Yeah.
to get here. That's a little bit of a drive.
It was, but not too bad.
Not too bad.
Not
So
too
that's
bad.
my first question then is, why? Why'd you drive? What made you say yes to this?
Because I love the Lord and I will be obedient, even if I don't see what's on the other side of what He's telling me to do. And plus, stepping outside of your comfort zone is always a good thing.
Yeah. Say
Always.
that one again. Preach. Stepping out of your
Stepping out of your comfort zone
is
is
always a good
always a good thing. Produces a lot of fruit.
That's good. And let's talk about the word. Like, specifically, why do you have a passion and a heart for people to read the Bible for themselves?
Because I think we're taught a lot of things. We hear things secondhand. We're taught things growing up. And when you start reading the Bible on your own, you start learning that there's a lot more to be discovered. And the word is so active and so alive that it transforms your entire life. Not just reading words on a page, but reading the words with the Holy Spirit revelation. It's incredible. It changes your life.
Have you always had a passion for the word?
No, I haven't. I've always loved the Lord. But as a teenager, I've walked with the Lord since I was a child and grew up in church. And it always felt like, as a teenager, you really didn't want to take the time you had other things going on. But within the last even 5 to 10 years, God has magnified the word so much. And people don't realize that it is powerful. It's our weapon. I mean, it's our sword. His word is alive.
Yeah.
And when you speak it out and you take the power of the written word and you combine it with the power of the spoken word, it changes the atmosphere around you.
So good. Do you have a favorite book in the Bible?
I love Romans. I feed on Romans so much.
Literally, I just read Romans.
Really?
And I was like, dang, how come this hasn't been my favorite book in the Bible?
Oh, yeah.
I was starting to be like, I don't know, Philippians. Am I having
love? I love Philippians, and I've always loved Philippians. As a kid, Philippians 4:13 was always my favorite.
Amen.
But as an adult, I love Romans, and I love Acts because, Holy Spirit is everything. Having the baptism of the Holy Spirit and understanding that.
What would you say to people that, let's say, they're partway through and what would you say to them to encourage them to like stick with it? Like, you can do this, like, read the whole thing.
There's so much revelation that comes when you go all the way through and you kind of see things, because the Old Testament sets up the Messiah in many ways, and some ways are more blatant than others.
Yeah.
And so that setting up and that building up, I think as Westerners, we're kind of disconnected a little bit from some of the actual culture.
Yeah.
That's why I love my Jewish Bible, the complete Jewish study Bible, because it really brings the Jewish culture to life. And then you can understand things in more of a depth.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh my goodness, that means that. And this, and it's just so depth. You just feed on it.
You're like a little detective. You're like, oh,
yes.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he just illuminates so much that you're like, I've read that thousands of times in my life, and I never really dissected it in that way, and it just completely transformed.
This may sound like super crazy, but so I read the Bible through the first time, finished about 4 years ago, and I remember thinking to myself when I got to like the New Testament, I was like, dang, the New Testament isn't that much. And then I actually realized, I was like, wait a second. The Jews believe in the God of Abraham, and they read pretty much 3/4 of my Bible is the same as theirs.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, I was super ignorant about that until just a few years ago. Like, I literally had no clue.
I think it's just culture and being Americans, we kind of have that disconnect. And the Lord really, really, when you partner with Holy Spirit, He will bring some of those things to life that you just didn't even know.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, let's unpack your God journey just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were born and raised in the church.
Yeah.
Always loved the Lord.
Yeah. Yep. I'm actually like 6th generation Pentecostal that we know of. But we've had ups and downs. The Lord has always been my first love, though. And He's led me so many times through the dark so many times where you're just, you feel like you have a blindfold on and you're in a dark hallway and all you have is the sound of his voice going, okay, Hannah, take another step, one more step, one more step. And you don't see what's at the end of that hallway. Yeah. I mean, God and I have been through some things.
Yeah, you have. Let's unpack some of those things. Can we do that?
Well, yeah.
So you're a mom.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Have any stories about these 3 children?
I do. So many. It would take me forever. So when I was 17, let's start there. When I was 17, God gave 2 people close to me, but these 2 people did not know each other. They only knew me. They weren't connected at all. He gave them a dream that I was going to have a baby.
They both had a dream.
They both had a dream. Very similar dreams. And I'm 17. I'm like, what?
You're like, is
how
an
does
angel of the Lord going to appear to me like
how
Mary?
does this make sense? Yes, but what is beautiful is I did not know that I would go through infertility, but he did. And he gave me that. He gave me that to hold on to at 17 years old.
Wow.
He gave me that to hold on to. And so we ended up fostering as well.
So hold on.
Yeah.
You're like jumping forward.
I'm sorry.
So you got married and,
Yes.
and you had an infertility struggle.
We did. So my husband and we have been together since we were 15. That's another God story too. I was like, God, I don't want to go through dating. I don't want to go through any of that. I want my soulmate. I want the one you have for me. And a few short weeks later, Sam came into my life and we've been together ever since. He's my best friend.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how cute.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 19. We were 19. When you know it's from the Lord. And he joined the military. And then we struggled. We struggled to have kids. And it kind of led us down the path of fostering. But the month that...
How many years were you trying before you fostered?
So we struggled for about 3 years to conceive. And then we felt that pull towards fostering. Adopting was something we had always considered, even before we struggled with infertility. Yeah. And so we just, I don't know, it was one of those God things that we just went for it. And we ended up conceiving our daughter, Esther. And then our daughter, Savannah, came to us through foster care. And they all have stories of their own. And one of the biggest ones is our oldest, who actually came to us last. So it's kind of all backwards. Our oldest, yeah, he's 16. And his journey has been one of the most incredible, the hardest things that we've ever done. I mean, God has his handprint all throughout his story. Wow.
And so he's 16 now.
He is.
How old was he when you began to foster him?
So we actually didn't foster him. Our daughter, Savannah, is his biological sister.
Okay.
And we just knew of him. We knew she had a brother. But we didn't know his story. We just knew because they have different biological fathers.
Okay.
So he was with his other biological family, and that's all we knew. And through a series of events, because we have an open adoption with their biological mom, when she collapsed into my chest, sobbing, telling me what was going on, like the full gravity of what was going on with Dylan.
Oh my goodness gracious. I just looked at the time. we have to take the commercial break. Okay. And I'm like, I can't let you say one more sentence. It's going to be too dramatic. So we'll be right back after this. I love it. Hello, we are back and we left you hanging. I know. So Hannah, we left right in the moment of... So Savannah's biological mom was just crying, heaving sobs on your chest.
Yes.
And what was going on?
So it's their biological mother. They share the same biological mom. And we would go and have these visits. And, because the Lord was very...
And how long had you had Savannah at that time?
So Savannah was fully adopted. And it's funny because my relationship with their biological mom didn't start until after the adoption. We were very guarded at first. But God was like, no, I want them too. Like... I want the parents too. It's not just about the kids. It's about this entire family.
Did you get her as a baby?
We did. She was 5 months old when she came to us. And so the girls, they're 4 weeks apart. So,
4 weeks apart?
Yeah.
Oh
they're both 7 now.
Stop. How cute.
Yeah. So they're what you call virtual twins.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're 4 weeks apart. They grew up together as babies. But Dylan, we had never really known about him until that moment.
So how old was Savannah in that moment then?
Savannah was probably about, oh my goodness. This was the end of 2019. So she was probably about 4 at this point. Okay. And her adoption was final. And we would meet up and have these like play dates with her biological family. And God just moved and we fellowshipped and it was incredible. But at the end, I could see something was bothering her. And so after I strapped the girls in the car seats and I closed the door, I was like, what's going on? And that's when she collapsed into my chest, sobbing about her older son. And it was like, those moments with the Holy Spirit where everything starts to feel like it's going in slow motion. Yeah. And I felt like honestly, like Holy Spirit smacked me. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, that's your daughter's blood. What are you doing? Wow. And we prayed with her, and I ended up back in the car. And I remember sitting there, and my whole body was shaking. I'm gripping the steering wheel. The power of God hit me so strong. And I heard the audible voice of God say, He is yours. And he kept repeating it. He is yours. And I'm like, God, how are we? What? And I kept coming back with all these questions. And he just kept saying, He is yours.
Wow.
And it was so powerful. The Holy Spirit was just moving through my body. And I'm going to be honest, I was terrified. Like, we're only 14 years older than this child, a teenage boy, trauma. How was I going to have the tools? And God said, I make all things new.
Yeah. So good. I make all things new.
All things new. So that was the very first start. There were so many confirmations that came, visions, dreams.
Oh, come on. You got to tell us a couple of them. You can't just say there were so many confirmations.
Well, it's just so multifaceted that, sitting in the car in that exact moment, I ended up calling my mother on the phone. And at that exact moment where he is saying, He is yours, and I'm sobbing, the girls are asleep by now in their car seats. My mom had a vision over the phone with me of these giant hands coming down and pulling Dylan out of a pit of almost like this black goo. And as the hands pulled him out, all of it was falling off of him. Wow. It was literally God pulling him out. Wow. And he said, Hannah, I'm going to reset his foundation through you, brick by brick. Wow. And that was the start of the journey. It would take us, it was in the middle of COVID. It took us, we had so many roadblocks and red tape. We started with phone calls and video chats.
And who was he living with?
He was actually in a treatment facility at that time. Yeah. He had a couple failed adoptions, multiple foster homes. See, we didn't know any of this was going on, but God knew. Yeah. And he had been in boys' homes and different things like that. And so he was in a full treatment facility at that time, a child angry. They were with their mother and then they were with their father, and you ended up with more trauma with your father and ended up in the system.
Did you go and tell him, like, hey, we want to adopt you? How did that happen?
Well, when someone had tried to adopt him before, they had found us and connected, and he had sent a card to Savannah for her birthday, things like that. So he knew kind of who we were. It's just, we didn't know the full scope of what was going on. We didn't know the full scope. And so when we reached out to Child Protective Services in North Carolina, so we're multiple states had to work together to even get this to happen. And we just told them who we were and told them what our intentions were. And so we even proceeded to try to go see him, but they wouldn't let us during the COVID. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And we fought so much warfare. There were days I felt like I was drowning, like where your head is just underneath the surface of that water.
Yeah.
And you can barely breathe because the enemy was coming at us hard. I mean, we had some very scary things happen to us. We got ran off the road. Like, there were so many things that just kept coming at us. And finally he came in March of 2021. 2021. He finally came to our home, but it wouldn't be another year until he was fully adopted.
Wow. Now, did you ever talk to him before that? Did he know he was coming to your home?
Yes, he did. And
when did you talk to him? How was that?
A couple months after we inquired, they discovered our intentions. We had to go through foster care certification all over again, something that, a door we thought was already closed long ago, when Savannah's adoption was final. We had to do all of that again. And, but we had video chats and phone calls weekly. And so he could see our face, build a relationship with his sisters.
So did somebody else tell him that you guys wanted to adopt him, or is that something that you
No, we told him. Yeah, we told him.
How did he react the first time?
Well, he just, very guarded.
Yeah.
When you're a child and you've been through what you've been through, I mean, things that no child should ever have to go through on this earth.
Yeah.
And you've been let down over and over and over again.
He probably didn't believe, at least,
He wanted to, and there were moments where he did, but things kept being delayed, and it was out of our control.
Yeah.
But you could see the hope just kind of fading in him.
Yeah.
Will I be home by Thanksgiving? Will I be there by Christmas? Will I be there? And it just kept prolonging. But God's timing is always perfect. And he ended up in our home in March. And then it would be another year before he was fully adopted. And throughout that year, we had to undo a lot. That foundation that God said, we had to undo a lot. I mean, you have to kind of deconstruct in order to rebuild.
Yeah.
So we went through some very hard things in our household, some very hard behaviors and fits and broken walls. And he was a very angry child. I mean, I would be too.
Yeah.
Being let down by everyone that, I was, that I thought would protect me.
Yeah.
And so, but I can tell you this, the adoption kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And
Why?
But between different things, changing of social workers, his social worker actually died in the middle of it.
Wow.
She died in a freak car accident.
No way.
Yeah, she did. And it was just a few weeks after she had flown here to bring Dylan to us. And she had a story of her own. She was in foster care too as a child. And Dylan's story and his journey and the connection and all of it, she was able to connect with her own biological brother because she had to fly to Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so many
And
years.
she passed away after that.
About a few weeks, 2 weeks maybe after she brought him and reconnected with her own biological brother. Wow. And she died in a freak T-bone car accident. Yeah, I mean, when I say there was a lot of warfare surrounding the whole thing, because Dylan is a great kid, and he has some very powerful things to do. Very powerful things to do in this life. I mean, he has tools at 16 that some of us don't even have at 30. Yeah, I mean, he does. And that's the true beauty of our God, how he takes everything that the enemy meant to destroy us, everything, and he turns it to beauty if we allow him to. It's not that he intended some of those things, but he will take them and he will reshape them.
Yeah.
And that's truly what he's done in Dylan's life. I mean, when you look at Dylan, you're not even looking at the same kid just a few short years later.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. it really is. It would take me a long time to tell you everything, but
Yeah.
there's
So good.
a lot.
You can think about that for a second because we're gonna go on another commercial break, and we will be right back right after this. So
It's hard to turn on the TV or unlock your phone and not see the bad of the world on your screen. Well, there is good out there, and you need to see it. Zondra TV Network is the breath of fresh air that you've been needing. Success stories, business ventures, and walks of faith. Visit the home of positive and inspirational programming, Zondra TV.
Look at you, making the gig economy work for you. You're doing what it takes. But if you're not driving, you're not making money. But what if you could make money while you're waiting to make money? TrueLou is for you. Go to incomewithoutobstacles.com and start earning anytime, anywhere. TrueLou is for you. Go to incomewithoutobstacles.com and get started today.
welcome back. We're hearing this incredible adoption story from Hannah about her son, Dylan. And I just have to say, you're really incredible. I feel like not a lot of people would be willing to adopt a teenage boy. It sounds like you got him when he was about 14, 15, that's struggling, that has a lot of anger, right?
Yes,
Like most people, they want just that cute little baby or maybe a 2-year-old toddler.
Right.
They definitely have already written off a teenage boy that's got anger issues, that's been in and out of whatever.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Just so
it's
you know,
all
like,
though.
that is powerful.
I appreciate that.
That is powerful.
But the obedience was the piece for me. Yeah, I was terrified. Like I said, there were parts I was terrified.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because of, not feeling like you don't have the tools. But something interesting that the Lord showed me is there's things that I've been through in my own life. But I actually had some of the tools all along. There's different things that we go through that provide us those tools when it comes to trauma.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.